Yeah, sorry. Thank you. Sorry, I forgot to unmute us.
And no video for a man.
What else do you want?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Depends on what you want.
No, I mean, right.
Just those two things.
Thank you. Thanks for pointing that out.
Sure thing. Anytime.
I also, I was looking for a place to do our fire extinguishers, and I got a new one right from Rutland. So all of the town properties are up to date with extinguisher testing and everything, and the guy's going to come in and take care of all of that automatic. For all the town properties, we went through all the different locations and got it away. He knows where everything is now, and that's good to go anyways.
I didn't know that was your job.
Well,
Good to-
I don't know if it extends to all of the town properties, but we had an issue getting the company that they've been using for years to come back and do them. And we had half of our extinguishers were 2 years out of date, and we kept getting empty promises, and it's not a violation that we're going to sit with and let it go for
Good.
5 years. So what we did, we took care of, Stonebridge, transfer station here, senior center, and the library. So
Great.
all worked in.
Very proactive.
Great.
We bought a sander, a stainless steel insert sander. We went in with the village. It was a total of $400, $200 to us, plus some labor a lot of labor that Dick has put in the last week, some late nights and some early mornings, but it has saved our butt because our Dodge went down previous to these last couple moments that we've got, and that is currently at Rutland Dodge. Needs to have an inner and outer transmission wiring harness replacement. I don't know if there's an estimate on that. I could find out ahead of time, but it's not a transmission rebuild. So,
One ton.
yeah, and that's our main salt truck. So we kind of do have to, we gotta have that and in place and move the Dodge. We've been using the village's 3/4 ton pickup, and we put that stainless steel sander that it got running in it, and we can only put a little bit in a time, so it takes quite a while, but it's better than nothing. So, with that being said, I know I had a few phone calls asking what happened, particularly from the elementary school. I had some questions of what happened with the little ice storm there toward the late last week, what happened this morning. And we got up multiple times through the night and kept checking and did nothing. Then all of a sudden it started to rain and it flash froze. There's multiple vehicles off on Thrall Road. There's vehicles off on Upper Road, vehicles off on Blissville Road. When it starts to rain and the temperatures are cold, it's going to flash freeze. Nothing leads up to that. Nothing tells you that it's going to happen. It happens. You can only watch out the window so much and see what the road conditions are. So I did just want to address that. That wasn't a lack of care. We worked very diligently and quickly to try to get through that one. Dick and I met with Josh from A&R, Agency of Natural Resources, and we went around to a few different places where we had some culvert and some issues to look at that and see what he's going to approve us to do and stuff and get that all squared away. And we're already basically set to move on that come better weather for that kind of thing. We had a emergency culvert replacement on 140 just east of Chelsea Lane. We found it Thursday night, Friday night of last week. Yeah, late at night, called me, went and looked at it. We sat on it for a while. And then we came back an hour later to see because it was less than an inch from flooding over 140. And we left it alone for the night because it wasn't still rising. It had risen probably 16, 18 inches since that morning when we first looked at it that day. And we went back and we pumped 20, 30,000 gallons of water from the ditch line out into the field on the other side the next day.
Did it collapse?
It had collapsed last spring. And we had so many other projects to get to. We never got around to it before the weather got to that point. And, you know, once the ditch line filled and started to overrun the road or undermine the road, that wasn't something that we could sit on and wait. So it had to be done, with the help of Ryan Davenport. It went very smoothly and it went faster than Ryan even gave me a timeline for. So we're pretty happy with how that went. And if anybody does see that it's kind of squished or whatever, there's not holes other than the 2 holes that are supposed to be on the ends in the culvert. We did check that. We just have to periodically add some material until we can get that paved and really set up. We've been cutting more brush and trees from those first couple storms there. In between these current storms, we got approved for the new backhoe. We might see that by the end of February or March. And and the thumb, thank you, Paul, for that.
Oh, yeah.
The backhoe grant. So we'll see that soon, much needed, because the other backhoe is just it's really not trustworthy anymore at this point. And we got a thumb with it too, or a thumb with it, so that we can do
Good.
emergency brush work and stuff like that.
What does that mean? I thought
It's on
like a
the,
grabber?
it can pick.
Oh, like a grabber.
Right. So you can grab. No, you're good. That's fine. Gary filled a lot of potholes in between while we were running around with A&R and checking other places. The guys have been very, very proactive in the downtime that Dick and I haven't been able to be there and kind of, lead on projects. So we did a little emergency work on the Class 4 portion of Dayton Hill Road. I got a call that the road was absolutely treacherous and that they were concerned that emergency services wouldn't be able to get in there in the event of a medical or fire or whatever. And we spent just a couple hours and got that back to, what it should be for this time of the year. And we're still borrowing the village truck with the sander that we got and Hampton's truck. That's all I've got.
It's
Anybody have
busy.
any
What
questions?
about that one?
I do, yes. Excuse me. For the new truck that we were looking at, I've got a couple pictures. You're welcome to pass it around and take a look at. We've got a quote for this truck. I've got a very defined 18 pages of everything that's going to go into it or that could go into that truck. But those are your main breakdowns for the warranty, the cost of the truck, cabin chassis, and then for the upfitting for the plow, sanding capabilities.
Is it smaller?
No, it's kind of like a 750. If you've ever seen Sam Locke's truck in town, it's a pretty big dump truck. It's bigger than our 550.
So you don't need CDL with this one.
Correct. I confirmed that as well. It does have air brakes, but there's not an endorsement required for it. I confirmed that with the guy that we would order that truck if we were to get that one from. And he can lock that in and get that to us, or get the truck ready in August so that we could have it before winter next year. Set up from Viking as soon as we get the approval. As soon as I get the approval from whoever I need it, then I can call them back and say we want it. Start
We
working
were
on that.
discussing using ARPA money for that. Because that is pretty much an emergency situation for the town of Poultney.
Yeah, we're as I've said in the report tonight, we're running with all these borrowed vehicles. We really need to have at least 1 or 2 spares for when stuff goes down. I mean, we were down to 1 truck at one point. So that's not. So, the only thing that I would say that would have an effect on the total price of this is if we go with the stainless steel bed option, and the guy from Viking that does the outfitting says that if we're going to keep the truck for more than 10 years, get the stainless steel bed. If we're not going to rotate this, we'll be able to rotate it with a 5 to 7 year plan or something. And it will cost a little more for the stainless steel, but it'll hold up a lot better.
Will it affect the timeline at all?
I don't believe so. It's a good question. I'll find out. But I don't believe so, because that's something that Viking's going to do, and they have tons and tons of stuff.
Get the final price both ways without stainless and with stainless.
Okay.
and all the information on it that you can get so that the board can read and understand what we're looking at so that we can, if we feel we need to, then if this is what we need to get, we'll hold on spending ARPA money to get that.
Okay, there was a question, of a trade-in with the Dodge. But if we get that back and they say that it's in pretty good shape after we get this work done with it, I think we should really hold on to it a little bit longer until we can trade that in for something else. I really hate to let go of something that's really this crucial without something else coming in.
Is that for sand and salt?
This would be for sand, salt, firewood. If you had to do,
Summertime, wintertime.
right, this would be a truck for any job basically. And the difference between this and our current big trucks is that this is not going to have a insert in this. So this truck could be used at any point in time to throw wood in, dump the sand, dump the salt, and go right into something else, or vice versa, and go right into the sanding or salting.
And
as
you don't
needed.
need a CDL.
Correct. So it makes it very, very universal.
That's good.
Okay, good.
That's it.
As soon as you can get that to us
I will.
so that we can get on, look at that, see if that's what the board wants to, what some of that ARPA money is to go for that new vehicle.
Yep.
We'll get on it right away.
Okay.
So we can have it by August.
I believe Paul has the 18-page
Yeah,
well printed. If you do decide you want to look at that.
We'll have to start, I want everybody to look at that so that we get a total understanding of what we're doing with that money. Okay? Anybody have questions?
I just want to thank you. I know we're riding the town truck today, took some pictures, and I great admiration for you guys who get up at 3 a.m. and drive those trucks because it's pretty scary being up there. That was the biggest one, but it's pretty scary being up there and with the wing and stuff. And I highly recommend the rest of the board at least take one ride to see what they go through because you're at 3 o'clock in the morning, you're on those back roads. We did my road, Morris Hollow, right?
East Road.
East Road, and some of the turnarounds and stuff, I'm like, oh my God, how do you not hit everything? It's amazing. And I wanted to go because I wanted to see, well, what is it like here, where you have to go, what you have to do with the truck. So I highly recommend that board members at least go for a little cruising one in the wintertime because I don't know how you guys do it. It would scare the heck out of me. Especially like 3 o'clock in the morning because it was light out. I can't imagine when it's dark out and you're on Pond Hill and you're over some of those roads.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So
It's actually easier at night just because you can see the oncoming headlights. So before you commit to a hill and not know if there's a vehicle on the other side of that hill, whether it's below side or the high side. Yeah.
I don't know. It was pretty scary. You're up there and you're seeing everything. Like, how do you judge? Like, it's bad enough just sitting there watching. Like, how do you judge? But
We all have passenger seats with seatbelts, so if anybody wants to come,
I had my
Yes,
seatbelt on.
we have hard hats, safety glasses, whatever it is you want. If you're thinking about it,
My
come on
seatbelt
over,
on.
we'll take
There's
you.
a storm Wednesday night coming.
I went today because I said I'm gonna go before in the middle. It wasn't 3 o'clock in the morning.
next.
I was like,
Who's the
yeah.
next one? Oh.
I mean, it's just to see where you go, what you do, and all the roads because I was curious on some of the. It's a huge truck, so it was good to know when you're talking about certain roads and how you do things, like understanding where that truck and how important the truck is, you know, and how you do it. So it was eye opener to me, and I great admiration for what you guys do, especially at 3 o'clock in the morning and not sleeping all day. I did promise Dickie some coffee, but.
Anybody else have anything for?
So thank you. Thank you for.
Okay, thank you, guys.
So,
Sleep, you don't have to be here.
I've already had shot. Have a good night.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it.
We don't see you before, we'll see you Saturday.
Yes.
Wednesday night.
We do have, the Poultney Rescue Squad up for their, real property tax exemption. It's every 5 years they have to have a voter approval for that. So they did file the petition with the clerk who gave it to me. So we'll have to include that on our warning.
What does the petition say?
It's just to renew their real property tax exemption for a period of 5 years to become effective July 1, 23 to June 30, 28. So there's that. There was a petition filed in regard to the Thrall Road Bridge to revisit the issue as far as single lane bridge. The clerk has given that to me, that we'll have to include on the warning.
Does that say? How's that worded?
Shall the bridge be installed over the Poultney Gorge on Town Highway 6, Thrall Road / on the green? Be a single lane bridge marked so as to have one 12-foot lane for cars and trucks and shoulder lanes, each approximately 6 feet wide for other traffic. And shall the town cause the bridge to be striped at the earliest, to be so striped at the earliest possible date while not delaying the opening of the new bridge to traffic? So,
Can that be done without delaying?
So is it okay if I say something?
I just want to
No
ask a
problem.
question. and
I'm
then-
just asking.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
can that be done without delaying bridge?
no, the state is advised that no, if it's there's a myriad of issues that I really am not ready to discuss at the moment. But the short answer is no, according to the state and the consultant engineers, it would delay the project further.
That's millions of dollars.
I think it's too early to jump into
Okay,
all the scenarios.
okay, thank you. Yes,
Okay,
go ahead.
so-
I'm sorry, I just asked.
No, you were right to say that. So basically, this is the second time I've ever come to you guys for anything. The first time was the Poultney School playground, which took 3 years to get built, the ADA playground. My focus is always safety. So according to this bridge that went in Williamsville, which also was the same thing, and they also decided to stripe it one lane. According to the information that I've read, it's 2 weeks for a change order to come through for striping. This doesn't affect any of the construction, any of the width. It only affects the striping, which the state has said, the DOT has said multiple times, that is the choice of the town. It's in the PowerPoint that we had in June 2020. The last page is what the bridge would look like if it was striped one lane. The amount of time that it would take for people to stop and move through is 35 seconds. For a one-lane bridge, that's the point of time.
Was
So
that done, Jane, was that done on Williams Bridge that you just,
Williamsville
yeah, was that
and
done?
New
the time-
Fane,
Was the
same
time done? on that?
Because you had stop signs, does it?
no, I don't know about the stop signs, but I don't know what you mean by the time.
Like you said, 35 seconds to go through.
No, that is lane engineering.
Okay,
Okay, so that is from a website that's from a road engineer, basically.
okay.
So 35 seconds. The Agency of Transportation for this bridge that I was talking to you about, I can send a picture on, said that the traffic volume for a 2-lane versus a 1-lane, the maximum traffic volume would be 1,500 a day. When Nan counted it, it was less than 500 people that used that bridge when it was still open. Emergency management was another issue because during Irene, they had to flow traffic through this bridge here. But our bridge is already 2 lanes wide. If we were in an emergency situation and you put cones up and you had 2 lanes going, you would be able to cover that issue without any problem. Because, of course, you'd still have people come and look at the flooded river. But sight and distance was already taken into point when they designed our bridge. truck turning movements were in the whole reason why the bridge is as wide as it is, so that fire trucks and rescue vehicles and school buses would be able to get onto River Street. The problem with that is it takes two huge tow trucks to get them off that road because there's no turnarounds up there. It's a dead
On
end.
river.
Huh?
On river.
On River, yeah, there's, I mean, yeah, fire trucks need to go up there, but you're not gonna be sending up big trucks. But still, the turning radius is there. They showed it with one lane. If you're having, or they showed it with two lanes. If you can make that and be hugging the right lane, there's no problem with that type of vehicle going through one lane in the middle. Winter maintenance was another problem. We're already there. We're already doing that. So the bridge width is not the factor in this. And the change orders are very common and take basically 2 weeks. So if we did a change order on striping the bridge from 2 lanes to 1 lane, then basically that's a 2-week delay. Is there something different information you have, Paul, that I'm unaware of?
I'm not like at a point where I want to debate
Oh, I'm not going to debate with you. I just wondered if
the
I was
merits
wrong.
of 1 versus 2 lane.
Okay,
I'm not an engineer. I'm just telling you what my engineers, the state engineers have said, what the state's consultant engineer firms have said. And I put it on the record in August of 2022 in one of these meetings.
mm-hmm.
And I know that people that were instrumental in collecting, some of the people that were instrumental in collecting the signatures were advised and were aware that the state's engineer and their consultant engineer has advised that you would have to redesign the bridge. And it would cause delays. So,
Is that anywhere in writing that I could access? Because I have not been made aware of that information.
I have that in writing. If I could add to this.
I just don't know why we don't need to sit here and debate
it. We're
thing
gonna
over.
accept the petition, that's all.
Well, the petition,
We have to accept the petition.
well, the petition, in my opinion, I've asked an attorney to review it, which is, something that is a prudent thing for this board to have someone do that. So, if it gets to the point where it's on the warning and it's discussed at the informational meeting, I think it's then, if not sooner, that the public should be advised, again, of what our engineers are saying as far as timing, as far as funding. There's a contract that the state has with Miller Construction. We are not parties to that contract. So, this is more than just a change order or 10 cans of paint.
Let's find out what it is before we do anything.
Okay, because
Because if it does stop the bridge,
I have just heard for 3 meetings with the DOT that striping is the town's choice. The bridge is designed for the board.
let's find out though, if it would
So, yeah.
delay the bridge.
I would love to have that information.
Okay,
So, yeah,
let's
thank you.
find out.
I'm good.
Okay. Sorry.
Don't
The
worry
price
about
you
it.
pay for getting a brand new shoulder.
What, a raspy voice?
Yeah, they put the tube down there.
Oh, trust me, I've been through many.
I was gonna ask what the other guy looked like.
So it's 4 days ago. Okay,
I've reached out, as we discussed at our last meeting, I reached out to the Rutland Regional Planning Commission and asked them if there's any funding. There was a discussion, flashing speed sign lights.
that's what Mark asked about.
Yeah, Mark Linden.
Mark Flynn did.
So hopefully I can connect with the RRPC on that.
Okay,
I did receive a quote for upgrading the computers in this building. I haven't had a chance to discuss it with Silverway Networks. As I'm not an engineer, nor am I an IT person. But it looks like there's some monthly software things that we probably, before this board signs off on the budget, we should probably include. Because it's almost $346 a month for some of this software.
For the licensing or for the rental?
Because again, I haven't had a chance to discuss it with Silverway Networks, so I'll be able to inform the board better after I've talked with Silverway.
Okay,
Well, can I just go back to the flashing speed signs? Is that did we look at one that's a permanent, or is it one that's going to be there for a while, or is it two different kinds?
I don't have all the
Okay.
information. So I don't know. We'll look at our options, I guess.
see what they are and what we get funding for.
Okay.
Maybe you can get them for some permanent ones around. And see, Mark was talking about going in like into Woodstock and other towns where they have
Yes.
it permanent.
Right on.
And it's solar powered and
Yes.
it'll flash a little blue light.
Wells had it, but it wasn't permanent. But Wells had that for quite a while. You went into Wells, it
And what-
lit up when you were speeding, and it went
Yeah.
down when you weren't. Yeah, but it wasn't permanent. That's why I didn't
Actually,
feel like it was permanent.
actually a pretty nice device. Okay.
And then Sara Pelkey had some information she wanted to share, and she was going to drive down here, and I told her just to do it virtually.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi, everyone. All right, I'm on. Thank you, Paul. I have quite a lot to share with you tonight, so I will try to do this as quickly as I can. We haven't really had this conversation yet, so this is the beginning of a new conversation. And essentially, I'm here tonight to share with the select board current information about state level ARPA funds that can support the town's efforts to investigate and establish priorities for maintenance or redevelopment and or fund improvements relative to planning, development, or construction of community facilities. I've drafted a memo, so I need to do a little bit of reading because I want to make sure I get this right, but I will make sure that the full memo is available to the select board and to Paul after this meeting. But essentially, this is the opportunity. Governor Scott has directed additional funding, or additional support rather, to Rutland and Bennington counties, as those two counties are not submitting or winning grants at the same rate as other areas of the state. So in light of this past December, Cedar Chamber and Economic Development of the Rutland region in Rutland hosted a Capital for a Day meeting that I attended on behalf of Poultney. Terry Williams, as Poultney Selectboard member, was there, and a senator-elect was there as well, and as well as other representatives from Rutland County municipalities and key stakeholders. And essentially what it was secretaries and representatives from the state agency, various state agencies came down to tell us about all of the state ARPA fundings they have and take questions about how we could use it, where we can implement it. So we heard from Buildings and General Services, Agency of Commerce and Community Development, Department of Housing and Community Development, Agency of Ag, and Vermont Community Broadband. So essentially what I've done is take that information and weigh it against the information that I have and have collected as the town's economic development coordinator for the past 2 years, and the multiple planning studies that the town of Poultney has developed over the past 5 years, and the updated town plan. And I'm here to present a few recommendations for how the town might go after some of the state level ARPA funding. Before I get into those, I just want to make sure that for the record and for anyone who's listening, that there is funding for several key areas of development, not just municipal facilities. So public libraries, municipal water and wastewater infrastructure, affordable housing development, water quality improvement, broadband and economic development generally. So tonight, the recommendations that I would make to the select board involves 4 sites that are in the community that I know have been talked about in previous meetings and are generally areas of redevelopment or potential redevelopment for the community. One is the town highway garage. The other is the town office, Stonebridge. And then the 4th is what I am calling the Stako lot. I don't know if there's a different term for it, but it's the 3-acre lot owned by the town that is behind the firehouse. So generally, I walked away from this meeting feeling like redevelopment efforts could be almost fully funded by state level ARPA from beginning to end of development and construction. I know that's kind of probably a little pie in the sky type thinking, but we can definitely start somewhere. So I think, with the town highway garage, there's definitely money for scoping studies relative to stormwater management, river corridor, natural resource considerations, access management, and building requirements. So that's an area that we could start looking at a little bit more closely. This could include scoping studies or feasibility studies with key stakeholders being the Poultney Meadowy Natural Resources Conservation District and the high school, and with assistance from the Regional Planning Commission. The town offices in Stonebridge, we can continue to assess those buildings separately for highest and best use. There's substantial fundings for assessing buildings. Town-owned buildings specifically. And there's also funding for energy resilience, which Stonebridge could be a likely candidate. I'm not sure if that's necessary or not, but something to think about. And then for the Stako lot, there's funding opportunities to investigate that site a little bit more thoroughly, so that essentially it's pre-development work, so that if there was any interest in developing that site at a later date, the town would be ready to go. That's a lot. There's a lot of unknowns here as well. In my mind, if there's prior study or work that has been done for any of these sites, that would be one thing that I would need to have. But I would also need to have guidance from the select board and the town manager as to next steps, so that I can identify specific grants and any matches that would be required. It looks like a lot of the funds don't require matching. And this is one time situation with the state's ARPA funds. So it's similar to the towns, and that the money needs to be earmarked or essentially set aside by the end of 2024 and spent by the state by the end of 2026.
That's very good. Sarah, do they have anything in there? Say we went with our town highway garage and the board wanted to do that and upgrade the town highway garage. Is there any ARPA funding to help make that building green, like solar panels on the roof would be involved in that funding?
I think so. I think there is funding for energy assessment, but from what I know of the state's requirements for new buildings, that is something that they would definitely like to see. So I would imagine that there would be, but I could look into that a little bit more deeply.
Could we pick and choose? Would we be able to apply for more than one fund, Sarah? Like, could we do highway and then town offices? Or we kind of have to key in on just one thing for the grant monies?
That's a really great question. I think we would be more competitive if we did key in on specific priorities. So, and also considering the town's capacity to manage projects. So it's not to say that you can't apply for more than one thing, but you certainly would be, I think we'd be more successful if we are able to prioritize project.
Okay.
That's the question.
Yeah.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Nick.
Would it be possible through the money allotted for economic development to potentially hire a part-time grant writer and administrator so that we could, have the capacity at the municipal level to administer these grants and facilitate multiple projects at once? Should we, remain competitive going after more than one?
Yeah, I think so. If we needed to do that.
Cool.
Yep.
Thanks.
Okay, so Sarah, basically what you're saying is, to be more competitive in this, if we had like a, $2 million town highway garage, that would be our very first thing to go after for these ARPA funds.
I think that it would be, yeah, I mean, it's really, it's the beginning of a conversation that we should have quickly. What is the highest priority for redevelopment of the municipality's assets, or buildings? So if that's the priority, there's a couple of different things that we can look at in terms of scoping. I know that's location across the street from the high school, and with the opportunity to have a stormwater mitigation project included in it, and with its location right next to the river, would be, I think, a highly competitive project. So hopefully, does that answer the question, Jeff?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Sarah, we could also possibly do some scoping on that 3-acre lot for a possible area for a town garage. Is that correct?
Yes. And I think that would be almost a very simple project to connect with the RPC on, and to at least get in the queue. I believe in that type of program, which is essentially going to be coming out of the Brownfields program. The RPC would be a strong partner there, and they would help administer that. So that's a very.
How soon can we get together and start working on this?
Next week.
Let's get together with the board next week. Let's set up a date, get the board here, and let's start talking this and getting our priorities down immediately. What is good for, can we set a date?
Sure.
Let's see what we have.
I'll be in Poultney on Mondays and Tuesdays. And would be happy to.
What about the 30th on a Monday night? Is that good for you, Paul?
It would depend on what time, because there's a 5:30 JP meeting here, and at 6 o'clock there's a abatement meeting.
Yeah,
That's right, that's on the 30th.
Unless you wanted to do it earlier.
Can't get here earlier.
Yeah, Monday it's hard. I could do the 31st, Tuesday.
Can we do Tuesday?
What time?
What time could you be here, Sarah?
For a
Tuesday on the 31st, I can be there into the evening. I'll be there anyway from 8:30 on. I can stay into the evening too.
Yes, Rick has to work till
6:30.
Rick has to work till 6.
I can be here at 6:30.
I can stay later if that's the time that the board can meet.
Can you meet Tuesday? Can you meet Tuesday, Carol?
Yes.
Cheryl? Can we do 6:30 Tuesday the 31st?
Sure thing.
Let's do 6:30. I wish I could write. The only thing I didn't practice.
Paul, you'll print off the information from Sarah.
Practice shading.
You'll send the information to Paul so we can look at it, Sarah, ahead of time?
I will. I'll finalize it tonight and make sure that you have it tomorrow. There's quite a bit more information in this memo. I skimmed through it just for the purpose of being quick.
Let's get on this. Rivers, we have that one down by the trestle. We already have a scope there. We have 60,000 to look at opening that up and hopefully getting the flow of the river better so that we don't get an ice jam. We're trying not get, being proactive on a catastrophic flood event in the village and town of Poultney.
That's great.
That one's already in the works. And we have 60,000 for the scope on that one already.
Excellent. That's great. And that actually was one of the projects. So I'm doing a little of this work in terms of economic development for the village as well. And the village has already applied to one of these grants, the Community Recovery and Revitalization Program for water and wastewater infrastructure. So, good.
Go ahead.
Can I answer a question?
Sure.
Sarah, when you talk about scoping on a 3-acre lot, is there still concern that there's mercury contamination in the soil?
That is one of the unknowns. I would need to dig up prior studies and development work. I believe the storage tanks there are capped and it's not an active site is my understanding of the location right now, but I would need a little more information to answer that fully.
There is concern with it, Jane.
Okay.
In fact, when the village did a water project back there in I think it was 2018, we had to go through a few extra hoops in order to do that project. So, you know, it's sort of, as I understand it, it's sort of on a case by case, what are you doing basis, how much they have to continue monitoring it when you're doing whatever activity you're doing there.
Are there still
Do they have
wells?
federal? Huh?
Are there still wells in there?
Probably monitoring wells. I know they do it on a lot of property. They have underground fuel tanks and so forth.
Oh, yeah.
They have monitoring wells.
Is there federal funding, like through EPA, that would address that in conjunction with what you're looking at?
There is usually, yes, that type of funding is usually managed by the Regional Planning Commission, but there's one-time funding in excess of what is typically available through ARPA. But yes, if that didn't cover it, there's definitely programs through EPA.
Thank you.
Good. Anybody else have anything?
Thank you, Sarah, for all your work and time.
Sarah, thank you.
Absolutely.
We'll see you
Thank you,
Tuesday
Sarah.
at 6:30.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Sarah.
Good night. Okay. Anything else, Paul, other than VP, for co-chair, vice chair?
No, I don't think so. No.
So Terry left. He moved up the ladder of politics, which I'm hoping there isn't too many politics here. We worked for the town and what was that?
Bullshit.
You're getting tired of listening to it too?
I'll take it.
No, it just helps.
We need to elect a vice chair. Thank you. I would nominate Cheryl Poirier for vice chair.
I would second that.
Is there any other
You
nominations?
don't want to be in
If there's no other nominations on the floor, nomination for Cheryl Poirier for vice chair has been first and second. Any comments or questions by the board?
You'd be very patient with me if I did that.
Yes.
All in
Because
favor?
I'll make mistakes.
Motion carried. Right, you're vice chair. Transact any other lawful business?
No.
Rutland Regional Planning, we just heard.
I don't have any local business. I just want to make a comment to remind everybody about the town of Poultney retirement open house for Ron Kelly on Saturday. Open to the public and everyone, 2 to 5 at the Poultney American Legion.
Cake and goodies.
For Ron, 2 to 5. Thank you.
It was in the Free Press and the Lakeside News.
Okay.
There is one other thing I just remembered.
And if you do have any sorry, Paul, if you do have any pictures or anything that you want to share, feel free that there'll be a time and place that you can share your memories, your roast and toast, whatever you want to do.
For the vacant seat that the board advertised, there's a January 30th a timeline for anyone who's interested in that position to give the board a letter of interest. So the next regular meeting after that is when the board will be tasked with appointing someone to that position.
What was the date you said, Paul?
January 30th.
January 30th, so we're gonna have to interview people after that, and then appoint one 10 days after that.
You would have to appoint somebody at the next meeting after January 30th, which would be February 13th.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes,
What information, the information about a person are you looking for in that letter?
just basically it's a letter of interest, ask to, talk with the select board about the possibility of being appointed to fill the rest of the term that Terry Williams vacated. And basically just, I'm interested in a quick synopsis of,
List of skills.
yeah.
Okay.
So we'll have to interview people before the 13th so we can make that on the 13th. Okay, everyone? That it, Paul? Does, hey, public comments and concerns. Do we have any tonight? Yeah, pretty decent night, decent meeting. Do we need to go into executive session?
I thought we did.
I have some public comments. Mary Sue Reed here.
Oh, there you are.
I had to unmute myself.
Hey, Mary, what you got?
I missed the first couple minutes of the meeting, so I don't know. When I was looking at the meeting minutes for the January 9th, Jeff, I believe you offered to take on the work of the trestle project that Terry had been working on.
Yeah, Sarah's working on that also. Terry
Okay.
and I started that way back when.
Okay, I was just wondering, that's a very important issue to the town.
Yes,
So,
it is.
so should that be included in the meeting minutes? Because the other duties that were taken over by other folks in town were included in that. Paul Donaldson said Aaron Kerber is going to be the new emergency management coordinator. Sarah's taken over the RRPC. And in that same conversation, you said you will be taking over the trestle project from
Well, actually,
Terry.
what I think I said was I would work with Sarah on that project.
Okay.
That's what I do believe that's how I might have, said it. That I know that she's taken that over. And if she needs any help in that I'd be willing to help her.
Okay. All right. That sounds good. My other concern is regarding the flashing speed signs that Mark Flynn brought up at the last meeting. I think it's important to find out how effective these speed signs really work. I'm sure we've all seen drivers fly by the ones at the high school. The incentive to slow people down at the high school is the sight of a police car there. I've noticed on my road, the highway department put up a whole bunch of traffic signs on the road last year. It has not slowed down the speeders. I think they look at it as a suggestion. And, perhaps looking at more enforcement of the laws will make people be in more compliance than a flashing sign that people don't even notice anymore because it's there all the time. So that's my 2 cents worth on that.
Okay.
And the other thing, just a question for Paul. With the computer upgrades at town office, will this be including updating the web page?
We talked a little bit with Dean Sellaway about that. So I don't know. I'm not really sure. The quote he gave me, again, I don't know what any of this stuff means. So I need to have a conversation with him. But a good point, I could ask him about it.
Okay, that would be good because I notice a lot of the information is either missing or it's outdated. So it'd be good to get that up to speed because again, that's a really valuable resource in town.
Okay,
And yeah, just one other comment. I know Joel is gone, but I just want to let the select board know that just like Cheryl pointed out, the highway department has been doing just a really great job with these storms coming up. And I just want to let you know that a lot of people appreciate all the hard work these guys do all the time. So
thank you for that, Mary Sue. I'm
sure
sure that they would be very appreciative.
They're good people.
Yes, they are.
Okay, I'm set. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we don't need executive session, correct?
No.
We hear a motion to sign the board orders. We hear a second. Any comments or questions by the board? All in favor? Motion carried. I guess that's it. A motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
We hear a second. Any comments? All in favor? Motion carried. We're done. Thank you for coming, everyone. Bye.